first tonight's opening discussion is and this is something that I know Skeeter Mizzou deals with, we deal with as Buckeye fans, all college fans are dealing with this now, and that is the name, image, likeness. That is just the wild, wild west. And of course, I was on yesterday with on the college huddle with Michael from Vol Fanatics. I think he's actually in the chat.
Yeah.
There he is. Yep, Michael's with us tonight as well. And we broke down Nico, him leaving Tennessee, where they're at, everything like that. So this is resurfaced because of what Nico has done to Tennessee, and that is players basically treating NIL like it's 1 year contracts with their college, like they're on the last year of a contract with their NFL franchise, and they're holding out from going to camp, trying to hold out for a better deal, a more longer contract, more money, whatever. That essentially is what Nico did here. My question tonight as we begin this discussion is NIL ruining college football? That's where I want to start tonight. Skeeter, I'm going to kick it off to you first. What is your thoughts about NIL, and do you feel it's ruining college football?
Well, I would kind of hate saying this while Michael's in here. So, Michael, plug your ears. I have to applaud Tennessee because it's great to see somebody have a backbone and not let the players walk all over and get their way. For them to say they're moving on when he wasn't showing up to practice and all the reports were coming out, I have to applaud Josh Heupel and that staff because that's not easy to do at this part of the season to say, hey, you are starting quarterback last year. We got to the playoffs, but we're not doing this back and forth games. So NIL, has it ruined college football? In a sense, yes. For the traditionalist, very much so. Um, I think there's hope after seeing what Tennessee did this past week, and so you know the problem is we're taking these 18 to 22. I think there's a few more 26, 27 year olds still out there from COVID and red shirt years or everything, but uh, we're taking them and throwing all this money at them, and they have every influence in the world. And it seems to be the biggest problem is their family. Their mom and dad are seeing a you know a paycheck. They're seeing all kinds of money coming at their kid, and they want them to support their lifestyle, and that seems to be where the issue is. So I'm hoping the kids realize you can't listen to mom and dad all the time. And I see you there, Michael. But you can't listen to mom and dad all the time. You have to do what's best for you. And, you know, the transfer portal, I think, goes right there with NIL. And you can't have one without the other as far as if you're going to say it's ruining or making it harder to be a fan. But if anything, it makes me fall in love with the name on the chest and the helmet more than what's on the back of the jersey. You know what I mean?
100%, 100%, man. Bobby Mack, NIL is not ruining the game. It's the pay for play that is ruining the game. It isn't actual NIL. And I get that there's just some nuance here, Bobby. And maybe we can get into well, I can't even speak that word tonight. We'll get into that a little bit more here in a little bit. Corey, save me, man. What's your thoughts on this topic?
Man, I'm not anybody's savior. Today is about the Lord Jesus Christ. That's our savior. Anyway, um, look, NFL or NFL. Wow, you know what's on my brain. The NIL. I wouldn't say it's killing college football just yet, but it's definitely mugging college football while the NCAA watches. It's not the NIL itself; it's the lack of structure around NIL. That's the problem. It's really becoming a cash fueled circus now. And Nico, I'm a leaving Tennessee, obviously, kind of demonstrated that. I do think Tennessee, and I'm going to agree with Skeeter here. I've said it on another podcast. What Tennessee did was really great for college football, and I totally applaud them. Applaud Josh Heupel. That was a hard decision. I mean, he's an established starter that got you to playoffs, and you had to move on from him because he's really what he was doing was in my opinion wrong. Not trying to get his cash value, but just doing it at the time he did it and the way he did it. And then he goes to UCLA, and I'll give UCLA some credit here, believe it or not, because it is if all these things are true, he was getting 2 million in Tennessee. Maybe I'm wrong, but allegedly he was getting 2 million at Tennessee. He wanted 4 million, And UCLA said we'll give you 1.5 million, which means all of college football said we're not dealing with this kind of crap. We got to take a stand on this. And UCLA, I'll give you less value than what you got at Tennessee. So to the point where his father's now coming out, it had nothing to do with the money. It's just stop it. Nobody believes that. But I will say players definitely, I think we can all agree, deserve to get paid. But they are definitely, collectively speaking, the players are the reason people watch the games. But they are not bigger than the game. They're spokes in the wheel still, even though they deserve to get paid. Because as college football is, you don't have 10-year, 15-year stars. You get a couple years out of a star, he moves on, so you get on to the next kid. In fact, where NIL is killing college football for me, period, is recruiting. I don't even care about recruiting anymore. I just don't even want to watch it anymore because it doesn't matter as much as it used to be. If you miss out on recruits, go to the portal next year and offer them a bunch of money. And they'll come. It's just almost ridiculous. But continuity, loyalty, any sense of program identity is being killed a little bit with NIL. Freshman commits, gets a bag, transfers after one spring practice. I mean, why? Again, that's why am I supposed to care at that point? It's just, um, so it's like I just want to watch the games because I love college football. I love the fact that Ohio State can handle the NIL era. That's lucky for me, but as a fan, but it's just killing my love of what the game was for sure.
Aaron asks if you get NIL from a school once you leave, does that money stop or do you still get it? Depends on the contract that they got from that NIL. If it was all up front or if it was, spread out over so many years and it's so much per year. Um, so it really just depends on what that NIL contract looks like.
Also, how
Um,
you leave, right? Like if you enter the portal, I imagine it voids any contract. But if you go to the pros, there still might be a payout type thing.
Depends
Like
on the
there's
Right.
contract.
yeah.
Yep, depends completely on the contract. All right, Chris, your turn, buddy. What's your thoughts?
Here's the thing. I don't know that we can say it's ruining college football. It's definitely created a seismic change that I think is redefining college football's ecosystem in an almost overnight fashion. Now, Skeeter and Corey both made some excellent points. Um, but I'm going to look at this from a couple different aspects. One of them being the traditionalist viewpoint. And that's obviously the way I lean. And I think it feels like the game's foundation is cracking somewhat. If you look at this, the gap between the haves and the have-nots is just going to widen. You're going to have a select group of teams every year that's going to be in the competition because they're the ones who can afford to pay the top players, the Ohio States, the Texas, the Oregon, the Georgia, the Alabama. These guys are going to get that elite talent because they can pay them. And as Corey mentioned, this is going to have a profound effect on recruiting, but not just because you may lose out on guys because of NFL or NIL, but you have to re-recruit your guys every single day, every single season. You have to recruit the guys you have already in house because somebody's going to come along with a bigger bag. You pair that with the transfer portal, and it's becoming a bit of a mess. And it's kind of a tough pill, I think, to swallow for a lot of fans because it shifts, I think, player motivation. It feels like there is a shift in motivation where college football used to be about loyalty and legacy and school pride. And now you look at this and it's about who can offer the biggest bag. So from that standpoint, I have a problem with NIL. But if you flip it around a little, NIL could be considered progress. College football, $1 billion industry. And as Corey said, the athletes deserve their piece. The issue is the lack of kind of guards against it getting out of control. It's made this a free market, almost a free agency on steroids market. And while it's been good for programs like Miami, who's seeing a resurgence, SMU's gaining momentum. You saw Indiana under Kurt Signetti, who's taken advantage of NIL and the portal, and they have been able to improve their programs. Coach Prime out of Colorado been able to take Colorado to levels it hasn't seen since the 80s. But At what cost? So is NIL destroying college football? I don't think it's exactly destroying it. It's definitely transforming it. And I think to the common fan, it can feel like a loss. It's the deep connection, the loyalty, the tradition. It's all getting blurred by the money. So I think for better or worse, we know NIL is here to stay. I don't know if it's too late to put the guardrails in place to try to keep it on the tracks. But if not, we're just slipping more and more into a pay for play version of NFL Light. And I think that's kind of sad.
The thing that's really interesting about this conversation is when we have had this conversation with any of the former players, they are very much supportive of NIL.
Well, yeah, because they never got the chance to get their bag, and they earned it. They did. They earned that money. I mean, and I agree that scholarships are great, Eric. I love the old system with the stipend and the scholarships. But the money that college football specifically and college athletics in general brings in, I do believe the kids deserve a piece of the pie. But they've got to get a rein on it, man.
Yeah. Cliff Fife here from Facebook says it hurts the smaller colleges won't be able to compete for a national championship ever. Probably only 20 teams will be in it. And I'll say this, I think college basketball is even worse. If you follow college basketball, the way the transfer portal and NIL is working in college basketball, it seems that it is the haves and the have-nots even more so than it is in football. It feels like, at least it does to me. But yeah, it's very very interesting. So the question is here then, how do we go about fixing NIL, or is there any way possible to fix NIL? We're going to get to the transfer portal next. So I know that some of you have some strong feelings about the transfer portal, but if you were asked to be the commissioner of college football, Skeeter, and someone came to you and they said, "We need you to fix NIL. If we need you to fix NIL, Skeeter, how would you go about fixing NIL if you were the commissioner of college football?"
Uh, I don't know because I think it's across the board. Really, if you look at one sport that NIL is hurting more than football, I would say college basketball. I think I saw a stat the other day where there are 8 teams that have $10 million rosters for next year or something like that. Like
Holy cow!
it's just ridiculous, So you kind of know who your elite 8 are going to be before the season even starts, or who they should be.
Right, and
So
the rosters are much smaller in
yes, yeah,
basketball. So
and so if I had a fix, I would say if the NCAA could implement a cap, but make it even for across the board. Like if you're a football player, this is the most you can make, and it's coming through the school. Like r- the NIL, it's lost its purpose. Like it was implemented for businesses and stuff to help raise money, but the kid had to do something and pay it back. Like endorsements and whatnot. You're not getting that, or not that I'm seeing. You're not getting that. Maybe a handful of players you see on commercials, but for the most part, nobody really pushes a product or anything that you see. So uh, now it's just as pay for play, as Chris said. So, uh, man, I don't know how you can fix it without scrapping it and starting all over. Honestly,
yeah, Corey, what's your thoughts, brother, on this, man? How would you go about fixing it, man?
Well, first of all, you can't fix it unless the NCAA or some third party will actually enforce the rules.
Yeah,
That's the whole problem. I'd rather the wild wild west versus remain if unless we're gonna put rules in place and nobody's gonna enforce them, because we had that when we didn't have NIL and the SEC was paying everybody, and teams like Ohio State would their compliance department would sell you out if you bought them a Gatorade. So it made it an unfair advantage for the SEC, who nobody reined in. Now you have open NIL, all of a sudden Big Ten teams can compete, and so I'd rather have that than a system put in place to rein it in, and then nobody checks who's not following the rules. But I do have some solutions if, in fact, in a fantasy land, the NCAA had some teeth and actually made people follow the rules. One I'd say a certified NIL agent or rep list. You have to go through vetting system, background checks, code of conduct, things like that. I think that would help out the players and the schools know who they're dealing with. Conference level NIL guidelines. That's where it gets shaky about the rules because Big Ten all of a sudden gets all moral superiority and goes crazy on the rules, and the SEC is like, I don't care what you do. So that's a dangerous one. But in a fantasy land where the NCAA puts rules in place and actually enforces them, that'd be a good one. Another one, NIL deal disclosure for school compliance. That's not enforced right now. I'd say it helps with red flags. It gives schools visibility. You don't have to give the dollar amount necessarily because of privacy issues. Maybe uniform NIL contract templates, things like that for players that they can actually get and understand, just like a financial aid form or in-school housing forms or things like that. Academic eligibility requirement right now. It's not officially tied. It kind of is right now, but you're required to maintain eligibility, not be academically suspended, things like that. Ban pay for play language in NIL contracts. It's technically illegal, but there's zero enforcement right now. And then, of course, my last one would be single NIL and orientation. This one's easy to do. Make schools basically have kids understand taxes, contracts, scams, NCAA rules, and things like that before they even sign the contracts. I think those things you can do to help the NIL system, but nobody's going to enforce the rules. So what does it matter?
So a lot of people in the chat are mentioning salary cap. Here's the issue with the salary cap. They have to be employees. If you're going to put a salary cap on rosters, they need to be employees. And then so there's going to be negotiations that take place, which means the players are going to need a union, right? The reason why colleges do not want these players to become employees of the university is they're going to have to offer them benefits, health benefits. And now all of a sudden, if you get a bunch of players who get injured, guess who has to pay for that? The university will. And so you're getting down an avenue of legality that a lot of these universities just don't want to go down, because then all of a sudden their profit margins are going to take a massive, massive dip. Um, Chris, what's your thoughts on this? Final thoughts on
Well,
NIL? How would you go about fixing it?
Eric, all three of you have made excellent points. But I want to explore what you said there a little bit as far as making them employees of the university. I do think they need to be contracted directly through the university, but contracted as independent contractors. And I believe that you need to, obviously, what Corey talked about, you have to have oversight. I do believe that a cap of sorts is necessary, or at least a pay scale based upon position, talent, that type of, some type of a pay scale. I do think a cap of sorts is necessary, and I think it's doable if you hire the kids as independent contractors and say, listen, we're going to hire you as a university employee, as an independent contractor. However, you are responsible for your own health care.
Hold on. There's an issue with subcontracting, and not all states' contracting laws are correct. You ever heard of the Uber laws?
I have.
So I think West Virginia is a state right now. You can't subcontract in the state of West Virginia because of the Uber laws.
Well,
And
and
so there's
clearly that's something that would have to be
correct.
ironed out
It,
legislatively throughout the country.
it's just kind of like when NIL became a thing. Certain states that hadn't jumped on it, and other ones were slow to respond.
Yeah, I believe one of those that jumped on it right away was Missouri. Was it not, Skeeter, that really implemented the NIL? They were at the forefront of really pushing when that happened, were they not?
Yeah, Coach Drinkwitz and the administration, they went to the state level and made it
Yeah.
possible to where if an in-state player signs a letter of intent with an in-state school, then they can start receiving NIL while they're still in high school.
And I think that is a big part of the issue. Is, and you looked at this with Quinn Ewers, the reason he came to Ohio State for a year. Until legislatively this is uniform throughout the country, this is going to be an issue. This is going to be an issue. And I hate more than anybody the idea of saying bring more government into it. That is one thing I am not in favor to, is bringing the government into anything.
I'll keep quiet on it.
But it's something where we need to have everybody on the same page. And unless you're going to get everybody on the same page, and we have a commissioner or committee that can oversee this process and actually hold people accountable, nothing's going to get done. And if nothing's going to get done and we're not going to have the proper oversight, I'm with Corey. Let's go wild, wild west style, because you know what? We know that our Buckeyes are going to be able to take care of business.
I'll volunteer to do that hard job of commissioner of college football. I'll take the bull by the horns.
Can I be vice commissioner?
I was going to say, I think we got a nice committee right here.
Yeah,
I think
exactly.
so. Yeah.
We'll be a round
Buckeyes
table.